So, welcome back guys to a brand new video. Now today is going to be a very interesting one because we're going to be talking about the future of ARK Survival Evolved. Over the years of doing ARK content, I've made a few videos talking about what the future is, but it's crazy to think where we are now and how the next step of ARK could potentially be a brand new game. Now let me know after this in the comment section down below if you guys would want an ARK 2 or just changes to ARK 1. I'm personally someone, just giving my opinion, that would like to see an ARK 2 with the new Unreal Engine and things like that. But, I just think it would be nice to see something completely new. And that's obviously what Wildcard have been trying to do, which is to sum up how to make ARK 2 a lot different from ARK 1, so people aren't just like, this game is exactly the same sort of thing, just like what happened with Atlas. Now before we get into today's video, as always, the support on the channel has been amazing. Let's smash, if everyone right now could obviously subscribe, but leave a like on today's video to show the support to ARK and to the channel. Let's try and hit over 1,000 likes, but let's just get in with today's video. So this was on the most recent post of obviously what Wildcard have posted, and what we know right now, guys, is Crystal Isles has been released. If you haven't seen yesterday's video, we now know that the TLC 3, which is like the dinosaur update, is coming sort of September, late September, around about the same time Crystal Isles comes out on the console. But what we also know is that Genesis, the final part of the season pass, is going to be coming in, it's meant to be coming in December, but I don't know whether they're going to be sticking to that. It would be interesting. It would probably be pushed back, but let's just right now what we know is that they've kept it to the December release date. Wildcard then stated this is the final ever season pass for ARK Survival Evolved, and the season passes is what makes their money. So the next step is obviously potentially the ARK 2, but we're going to be reading obviously a big sort of article and stuff about what they were talking about when they had an interview about ARK 2, but let's read through the thank you first. So they said, "Thank you. We'd like to thank the community once more as we truly appreciate all the passion and support you've shown the game. While we couldn't have foreseen quite how the last 5 years would play out, from primitive dwellings to hyperspace whales, our vision for the ARK franchise is as strong as ever. So stick with us on this roller coaster ride into the future as we look forward with you to tremendously exciting years ahead for ARK, where the very definition of survival continues to evolve. With gratitude, the Studio Wildcard team." So this is the interesting thing. They've still got years and years planned for what they want to do with ARK, and they've stated that the season pass is the last ever season pass. And in the article we're about to read, they also mentioned that they don't do microtransactions because they don't believe it's something that they like. They do the season passes because that's what helps them make money and build more, build more content basically. Because every single company needs to have things releasing. That you can't just have ARK, coming out as one game and they make loads and loads of purchases and that's all the money you've got to make. You've got to keep on making money, and that's what they mention, is going to be the thing. So what's the next stage? And the definition of survival continues to evolve. So we're coming along to here, which is obviously how ARK Survival Evolved fell into sustainable revenue without skins or loot boxes, which also mentions about ARK 2. So Studio Wildcard, the developer behind ARK Survival Evolved, has just announced its 4th and 5th expansion packs, which is obviously which is Genesis. We've had the first one and we're meant to be getting the second one. Yeah, the third pack, last year's extension, did far better than we were expecting, and the availability of the season pass brought in a lot of new users who suddenly had the entire ARK experience. Wildcard was even surprised by the expansion sell-through to the established user base. We never imagined it would be in this state, which is why we're doing more expansion packs, because it's clear the audience is still loving the game, is still playing it, and hungry for more content, says Jesse, who is obviously the co-founder of ARK Survival Evolved. He continues to talk about Extinction, really made us think, maybe we should give our players more, because there's still more story to tell. We left a cliffhanger at the end. We didn't know what we would want to do with it. We thought maybe there would be a sequel or some kind of spin-off later, but we had to do an opening to do more story. And there is also more gameplay stuff we wanted to do. So obviously they thought there would be some sort of sequel or something like that, which would be a spin-off later, which is what they want to do. But they mentioned here that they just didn't feel like it was the end of ARK Survival Evolved 1 yet. So earlier this year, the team knuckled down on Genesis, a brand new expansion with 2 parts releasing, which obviously we've just had the first one, and then Winter 2020. The pair continue a pattern Wildcard has established over the years, where ARK receives 1 or 2 big free updates and a premium expansion to drive sales around the holidays. Now, obviously, we have just had Crystal Isles on the PC, which is the first free big update of the year, which then TLC will be another one. And then, as I mentioned, towards at the end of the year, we're meant to be getting the final expansion if they stick to it. It has worked very well so far. ARK has sold 16 million copies across PC and console, with 10 million installs on mobile as well. And funny enough, that has actually increased a lot since this post was put up. I mean, ARK has sold 16 million copies this was a few months ago. But now they've probably sold, since it's been on, especially into Epic Games, it's free. I mean, absolute millions on top of this right now. And obviously, it's now on the Xbox Game Pass, which has been something that has got ARK a lot more downloads. Also, as I said, being free on Epic Games. And it's saying that ARK has fallen into a sustainable revenue model, which is fantastic. We don't sell skins and we don't sell upgrade packs, he says. But ARK is an online game with official servers and lots of costs to keep the game running. It's important to us that we'll always be bringing in new players, and part of that is creating new content for the existing ones so they bring in their friends. Doing one big premium update every year so far has provided the game with a yearly revenue model that is needed to continue development. If we stop making premium expansions, we wouldn't really have any sustainable revenue if we ever do. I'm not saying that we're going to, but if we did, we'd probably have to think about a new revenue model, which is what we wouldn't want, which is obviously microtransactions and things like that, and that just wouldn't be right for ARK, in my opinion. I just feel like it's a tough call, because obviously they're releasing a DLC is a lot of work, whereas when you just release upgrade packs and any microtransactions, it's literally none of the work that you have to put into a DLC. And I think that's where ARK don't get enough credit. All these companies like EA and stuff like that, and Wildcard get a lot of hate for delays and stuff. EA, all they do is just release upgrade packs, reskin the same game the next year, make billions and billions of pounds, and you've got companies that have started from rock bottom like Wildcard, who haven't done any of that stuff, and they've stuck just to releasing free content for us, but also paid content. And yeah, over the years, there's been problems of us having meshing and duping and everything like that, and there's been the glitchy servers, but you've got to think that the amount they have come along with the money they've made from just their DLCs, and obviously still some sort of game copies, because I know that there's been loads of people that have just recently started playing ARK. So where are we up to now? We're already past what we thought of the life of the game would be, and we're evaluating things as we go through to see what the future might be like. Part of it will be dependent on next year, or what they're trying to say here is part of it will be to see how Genesis goes and how the players react to that content, and we'll make some decisions based on that. Given the ongoing scrutiny in the industry of how the industry monetizes, Jesse feels proud and a little bit justified that ARK remains free of skins or other microtransactions, and the success of the expansions has certainly validated Wildcard's decision. Whether we do whenever we do announce new premium content, it's really nice that people get excited for it, he says. It feels good when people want to pay for what you're creating, rather than them feeling like they're getting, sort of swindled a little, and, which is what always happens when you have to pay for loot boxes. And, I completely agree with that. It's like, they're literally creating us perfect map content, and they're putting so much work into it, and then you're paying for it. Whereas with these loot boxes, I'm someone that has spent a lot of money on loot boxes on certain games. I'm not going to lie, and I've wasted hundreds of pounds just to get scammed, basically. I'm going to be honest, that's just the way it is. He adds, we've never been a team that gets excited about doing stuff that's required for that revenue model to work. Things like daily quests, bringing players back every single day, trying to plan out events. It's just a lot of economics, and it's very, you have to be really dedicated in order for a game just to succeed on that revenue model. That's okay for a game that's entirely free, but if players have already paid for the game and you're adding these sort of free-to-play mechanics, it's kind of annoying, and you're also doubling your work because you have to make sure the base game is great enough that people want to spend money on it, and then you have to figure out... So what they're saying here is, with Fortnite... well, obviously they're not talking about Fortnite, but what they're saying is they have to make ARK paid. They can't make ARK free, because then if they release more free stuff, then, you know, the revenue model doesn't work and the company will just go bust and you won't have the game anymore. So I guess that's why the big companies like EA and Ubisoft, who are, you know, whoever are willing to tackle that, you know, they're big companies. They can sort that out. They can take hits. They can take losses. Whereas medium-sized indie companies and stuff, it's just something they can't do because they will just, you know, fail. And then I think he's just going on to something about World of Warcraft here. He says, releasing too many expansions can make a game appear somewhat impenetrable to new players. Its criticism, Paradox regularly faces, sorry, I'm doing terrible at reading this, and it may be a part of the motivation behind Blizzard, which is everything about, you know, for World of War Classic coming back, which was quite interesting because obviously World of Warcraft, they went, if you have ever played it, they carried on releasing expansion packs and just got to the stage of releasing so much, so they ended up releasing World of Warcraft Classic just to get back to the old days. You know, everyone loves the old days. A lot of expansions and story stuff can ironically be fatiguing, and if, you know, it's linear and you feel like you're out of the loop of what's going on. But with ARK, we've tried to make our story and our lore an optional thing, he explains. You don't have to pay super close attention to it if you don't want to. And I agree with that. I mean, I pay attention to the story just because obviously it's my job and it has been for a while and just learning, but I still don't pay as much attention as a lot of other people do out there who love the actual in-depth story of ARK Survival Evolved. You don't really have to invest too much in why this stuff is here or what did you do in the last expansion. You can just hop on with your friends and play at any point in ARK's timeline. I think that helps with the fatigue of too much content where you feel like you have to go through all of it in order to catch up. I agree with that massively. He's very smart there. He's also confident that ARK's track record of popular expansions justifies the release of a second season pass, one that is obviously for Genesis. Wildcard always made it clear that the first season pass would cover 3 expansions, and with 2 more on the way, which obviously we've already had 1, the studio needs the revenue to help support their development, and Jesse also argues a new season pass gives a roadmap for what players can expect in the next few years. People know that if they buy a season pass or the ARK experience at all at this point, they're not getting a game that's at the end of its life. He says it's got at least another 2-year roadmap with fresh new content coming. Details on Genesis content are light, well, it's not light anymore, and they said here, work on a potential ARK 2 was actually pushed back in order to develop 2-parter Genesis for newcomers and avid fans alike. So is there anything else interesting I need to read at this part before we talk about ARK 2? Yeah, I think they're just talking more about Genesis there. But the first expansion, they're talking about Scorched Earth, and they're talking about the way it goes with Extinction. Is there anything else? I don't want to miss out the main part. There we go. So, moving past everything about that, ARK has been an open-ended survival sandbox experience, says Jesse. We still want to maintain that, but we want to to layer on top this sort of more directed experience because we feel like that might be more of the direction we want to go in the future if we do ARK 2. Wildcard had originally expected to be working on ARK 2 by now, but the success of Extinction and previous expansions changed its priorities since a full sequel would take years to develop, and the studio has been restructuring our plans and teams in a way that ensures there is still plenty of fresh content and millions of those players that can play ARK 1 while ARK 2 takes shape. So basically what they're saying there is they want to make sure they can get as much content out still for ARK 1 while they work on ARK 2. For ARK 2, we need to give the players something new, something they're not getting from ARK 1 already. Jesse obviously concludes, we're not quite sure what that is yet, and we're not ready to talk about it, but we want to be unshackled from what ARK Survival Evolved is, and not have to worry about ruining players' long history of dinosaurs and bases they've had for 4 to 5 years now, by making changes. That's just a lot of baggage when you're going into making a sequel, and it also frees up a lot of things what to do with the IP, go in different directions like you can see with Genesis. we'll come to a cool idea for us about what the next step is beyond ARK Survival Evolved, or what the next survival genre, for what's next for the next survival genre sort of thing. We don't want to put ARK 2 out there until we can answer those questions and people can see a clear difference between ARK 1 and ARK 2. Maybe a couple of years down the road, we'll see. So, I did a very, very bad job at reading that, and I apologise to anyone that really struggled listening to me there, because it was a lot to read there, and I haven't read that for a long time. But what basically is the interesting thing is ARK 2 closer than what we think? Now, I may get people in the comment section saying, Dom, this doesn't mention anything about ARK 2 being next year or something. But you have to think, they're in the background working on ARK 2. You know this. Or if it's not on ARK 2, something, something similar to it, because, I think, they were in the background working on Atlas, but I don't think Atlas took time, but I just generally don't think Atlas is as big as changing the whole scape of ARK Survival Evolved, in the sense of, I think it was meant to be a water DLC at the start, and they ended up making a whole new game, which was obviously a trial for them, and it's like trial and error, and and trial and improvement, and it didn't go their way that they expected to. But we look forward to, with tremendously exciting years ahead for ARK, where the very definition of survival continues to evolve. What we know, guys, is Crystal Isles is coming to the console in September. TLC 3 is coming around about September, October time. Then Genesis 2, Part 2 is still planned for December, like winter 2020, but it may end up getting delayed a bit. And then once that's been released, the next stage, we could see another TLC, we could see another bit of free content, but after that, they mentioned it's their last season pass and they've got to make money. Who knows what's coming next? Could ARK Survival Evolved 2 be closer than what we think? That is what we'll be finding out later on. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. It was a little bit longer than normal, but I quite enjoyed reading it through to you guys and talk about different theories of what's coming next. I hope you guys did enjoy. Smash that 1,000 like target. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll catch you guys later.